Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. This week I want to talk to you about the myths concerning romantic relationships between two women. There's a whole lot of stereotyping out there about every letter in the LGBTQIA+ community. This week we're going with this one. Please let me know below about any other letter you'd like me to specify myths about. The first one is super common. It is that they hate men, especially if someone identifies as a lesbian. They're told they're a lesbian because they must hate men. Why else wouldn't they date men? Why else wouldn't they sleep with men? There's a lot of reasons why women don't like men, and not all of them are connected to hating them. Some people this might be accurate for. There are definitely some situations out there where there are women who are not interested in dating a man and are dating or romantically involved otherwise with a woman. It doesn't mean that women are the second choice. This is why this one is really problematic, is because it makes it seem like, well, if you met the right man or if you gave men a chance, then you wouldn't be gay. You wouldn't be with women. You would be with a man, as is normal, which is entirely ridiculous, right? One of the reasons this myth is out there is because heteronormative society can't understand why a woman might opt to be with a woman instead of a man. So the only real answer is that they must hate them. It's not true. Women are attracted to women for all sorts of different reasons, none of which include a man. It kind of is a little bit funny because I feel like society on some level cannot fathom that it might have nothing to do with men at all. It has nothing to do with them. Number two, there is still a man and a woman. That is where heteronormativity really comes into play for the relationship. Those who are not women who love women do look at those relationships in heteronormative terms. The expectation is there is one who is more domestic and takes care of more of the house and the laundry maybe, or the cleaning, or if they have children, the one who is the more specific caregiver for the children. That is the one who plays the women's roles, the female roles. And then the other one is going to, I don't know, be more interested in sports, or maybe works more hours at their job, or has other interests that are typically seen as male interests. Just because you see two people in a relationship and they happen to like things that are stereotypically either male or female does not mean that's required to have a relationship. One of the things that I notice about relationships between two women is that there's more of a shared responsibility sometimes. Yes, they can fall into gendered roles, and yes, that might be their comfort zone, which means it works for them, so what's the problem? But it doesn't always have to be that way. The bottom line here is all relationships, no matter who's in it, should be a balance of people doing the things that they are just sort of more skilled at or more natural at, and also helping out with things that the other one doesn't like to do. Okay, so I'll give you an example from my own life. My wife and I have this whole dish thing, and we went a lot of years without a dishwasher. It got to be problematic between the two of us because who's washing, who cooked, blah, blah, blah. And like, we bought a new house a couple years ago, and this house happened to have a dishwasher. So we are now in this sort of rhythm where my wife loads the dishwasher because she is a much more analytical thinker in that way than I am, and she can get a lot of stuff in there and still get it clean. So she loads the dishwasher. She also unloads the dishwasher and puts the stuff on the counter clean. When I come into the kitchen and I see clean dishes on the counter, I put them away. She hates putting them away. I hate being responsible for all of it. This is how we work so that we each are still contributing, but we also are able to help each other out so we don't make anybody do a job that they just absolutely hate to do. Number three, they are more accepted by society. This is an example of that sexualization I was talking about last week. The assumption that women loving women relationships are more accepted by society is only if you look at it sexually through the male gaze. The idea that society would be okay with two women together but not two men, like, what would the difference be? Why else would they say, yeah, two women together is acceptable, two men together is not? Why else would anyone say that except that they are sexualizing the relationship? They're thinking about what they do together versus who they are together. And relationships are not about what you do together. It's about who you are together. Who do you encourage each other to be? Who are you growing into because of that relationship? How do you support each other in your day-to-day life adventures? Not what do you do sexually to one another wherever you do that. As a woman in a relationship with another woman, I get so frustrated at the fact that when we strip so many of these things away, it comes down to other people sexualizing my relationship and then making a judgment about how they feel about their own sexualization and then make it my fault. Myth number 4, you can't really be a lesbian unless you've dated men at some point. I'm going to add a 4B in here because the other side of that is people say you can't be a lesbian if you've ever had attraction to men. Neither of those are 100% accurate. That might be someone's experience. And if this is someone's experience, you have the right to that experience. You just do. If for you, you do not feel like the title of lesbian fits you because you have experienced attraction to men, then the title of lesbian doesn't fit you. For someone, the act of being with a man might have been what solidified for them that they wanted to be with women. And I'm not just talking about sex. I'm talking about like in a relationship, right? Awesome. That was the rule for you. This goes back to that comparing marginalization piece where we're talking about our experience as though it has to be everyone's experience. That's how heteronormativity works. That's how heterosexism works. Those do not need to be our guideposts in everything. Those actually need to stop being our guideposts. Our own lens only informs our decisions. Someone else's experience is different and they do get to have their experience. Myth number 5 is hysterical. So people say you have never had significant relationships with a man, and so that's why you like women. This is different from the last one in that we're talking about relationships, platonic. We're talking about girls with daddy issues, and we're talking about girls with very traumatic or destructive dating pasts. The assumption here is that bad experiences with men drove these women to other women instead of men. Goes back to that whole heteronormative society idea that that's the only way this makes sense to some people is if you have a reason why men are not an option for them. That's not a fair assumption. That's just, number 1, that's just not how it works. Number 2, it's again overly sexualizing the relationships. And number 3, it makes so many assumptions of what people need in their lives and don't need in their lives, or what relationships they have had in their lives and what relationships they don't. I put this one at number 6 because I didn't want it at the end, but this is one that is perpetually difficult for a lot of people in the mental health field because it's so common that not everybody realizes that it's incorrect. And that is lesbian bed death. So this is something that very much came into play actually quite a few years ago at this point. Lesbian bed death is not a thing. What that refers to is the idea that 2 women get together in a relationship and become so symbiotic that they stop needing the sexual fulfillment of the other one and therefore become complacent. And in that relationship, as they become more connected, they have sex less. The concept of lesbian bed death comes from that idea that women don't need sex and that men do. Because that's the only way that that would be possible, okay? That is a purity culture idea that does not hold water in today's society. There are many, many, many reasons why certain relationships might have sex less than other relationships. There are many, many, many reasons why one partner might have a higher sex drive or a lower sex drive than the other partner or partners. There are so many varied reasons that it is impossible to say statistically that there is any real evidence that 2 women together are going to have sex less. When we put the expectation that women don't like sex or don't need sex in order to connect with one another on a relationship, we are putting a heteronormative concept onto people who have been making all the attempts possible to shed a heteronormative existence. The real question is, in that relationship, are you feeling loved? Are you feeling seen? Are you feeling satisfied? If you are not, you need to talk to your partner. Tell them what it is you need, hear what it is that they need, figure out how to get to a place where you are accomplishing each other's needs. And in that, it doesn't matter how often it does or doesn't happen if it's right for you. Myth number 7 is that two women can't have real sex. This idea that sex is penis and vagina, and that is the way that sex happens. And that idea came out of the fact that, like, can't have sex until marriage, right? Purity culture said no sex before marriage. The question that people come up with all the time is, how far is too far? And for a lot of people, as long as they were not having penis and vagina sex, that was okay in the eyes of God. Because of that, the ways that two women have sex fall into those categories of the things that aren't sex. And that mess of a situation to a woman who grows up to understand herself to be attracted to and want to be sexual with women. Can you see where I'm going here? The amount of issues this creates for the relationship, for the individual, the things that you have to deconstruct in order to understand and feel valid in your relationship, because this whole idea that you've grown up with, that all other sexual contact was permissible except for the goal, the real point, which was penis and vagina, leads to a misunderstanding of what sexual intimacy is, which then leads to a lot of internalized things that people have to work through, all because some people in a heteronormative way decided that was the only way to define sex, and that was the only thing that God had sanctioned. The actual definition of sex, just so we're all on the same page, is an act of sexual intimacy between people for sexual pleasure or gratification. So if it brings you pleasure and it's sexual intimacy with someone, it's sex. Number 8 is the understanding that gay women are attracted to all women out there. This one, again, comes from this idea of how we understand men to be, and therefore how we understand women who are attracted to other women to be. We assume that men are attracted to everybody out there. Like, if a man's attracted to a man, we assume they're attracted to every man out there. If a man's attracted to women, we assume they're into every woman out there. These are not true statements, by the way. That's not real, but leaving that aside, this understanding of women who are attracted to women are attracted to every single woman is so prevalent in culture even today. And the last one is this idea of U-hauling. The idea that women in relationships with other women move very fast, that the intimacy piece is right there immediately. They're moving in together, they're starting a family of pets, and then they're having kids. Statistically, also still untrue. I said a lot about that in a video I'm pointing to right now, right here on the screen, about the intense intimacy in queer relationships. I'd love for you to watch it to get a little more background on why this U-hauling thing is a myth. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you all next time. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other.